Could we have the hallways cleared for fire reasons? We have to have the exits cleared. So if you just leave a pathway down the center, it'll be fine.
In the interest of the poor people that are stuffed out there outside the doors, if some of you could come into the alleyway, make sure you leave an aisle open, but maybe some of you could sit along the edge or get some more people in so some of those poor people can at least get into the room. I'd appreciate it. But just try to keep a line open to the doors, but maybe you can sit single file along the aisle there.
There's room. There's room. Are you moving in? I'll wait.
Not that he needs a formal introduction or anything, but
I don't know what I'm going to do.
we thought it would be kind of neat if the current head of engineering would introduce one of the future heads of engineering.
You can't have my job. Boy, what a crowd, what a crowd. This is the CFC pledge presentation. Sign them up. Aldo was so gracious to let me introduce Scotty or Jim or whatever we want to call him to Goddard. I'm so happy he was one of my heroes and one of my heroes for my children throughout the years. But let me give you a little bit of background. His real name is Jim Dekhein. You're stealing everything up here, buddy. Doing. And he was born in Vancouver, British Columbia. When I met Jim today for the first time at lunch, there was about 15 or 20 of us sat around a table, and we were all introduced. And Jim showed me a real feat of memory. I mean, we introduced ourselves, and Jim, right in the middle of lunch, says, "Well, how you doing, Tom, Jim, Phil, Karen, boom, 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 all the way around." And I said, "How do you do that?" And he says, "Well, I just have a very good memory." So what I want to do is have each of you stand up. And give me your name, and after the lecture, he'll repeat them all. Yeah, I'll never make it.
Isn't that right, Jim? Phil, Mary, and John, and Peter, right?
And Harry. Yes.
And Harry is out there, too.
Yeah, Harry's out there. Just quickly, Jim had an acting career early in his age, 15, and early in his youth. He played Robin Hood in a school play. I'm sure Kevin Costner could have taken some notes on that if he was born at that time. That's for mispronouncing your name. Yeah. He continued acting, and he won a scholarship at the Neighborhood Playhouse in New York, and he taught there for 3 years. He then, after that, he went into the Canadian Army.
No.
The artillery.
No.
No? That's what they gave me.
Well, they gave it to you wrong.
Where'd you go?
No, let me tell you. I played Robin Hood in high school, and I played Master of Ceremonies for 2 of the high school years at the skits thing, where we did reviews and skits and all that sort of stuff. Never did any more acting after that, or even something that could be called acting. I was always a good singer. I was a boy soprano and everything else, and I started too late in life, so my voice changed, and I couldn't get up to the peaks that were necessary to start this song. If anybody has ever heard Schubert's Hark, Hark the Lark, you'll know why, because it starts on a hell of a high note. And anyway, so I got second place. Anyway, then the war came for Canada, was in September the 3rd in 1939, and I was the 11th person to, he's working that out now, I was the 11th person to sign up in my area, And 4 or 5 months after that, I was sent early over to England to go to a signal school. By that time, I was a corporal. I had started as a private, and in the artillery, we called corporals bombardiers. Then I became a lance sergeant, and then I was sent to a British officer school, and then I was an aide-de-camp to a general, and then I got tired of that because I told him, I said, I'm not doing anything here, you know, and so I said, get me out to a unit. So he sent me to the 13th Field Regiment, and I whipped them into shape. I landed on D-Day, #1 off on my beach at Juno Beach, and I was in charge of an LCA, number 5 LCA of the Winnipeg Rifles. The other 4 contained infantry. I had specialists aboard, people such as you. I had beach commandos. I had engineers. I had beach signals people there. I had my own assistant officer at that time, and I had to go in and survey in the gun positions, which the guns were supposed to come in at 10 o'clock. Actually didn't arrive until 1 o'clock, and only half of them have arrived. However, that night I was wounded, and a machine gun opened up on me, and I was sent back to hospital, and I got out 5 weeks later out of convalescent hospital, and I saw a notice on the notice board at the reinforcement depot, and it said, ask artillery officers to volunteer for air observation. I said, whoops, they're going to teach me to fly, you know, and that's what they did. And that was the physically, to me, absolutely flying the greatest year of my life. And that includes even acting. Okay? There you are, Tom.
Thanks so much. I just want to make a couple more comments. You know, you noticed in the flyer that he was considered the craziest pilot in the Canadian Air Force. I asked him at lunch, I said, how did you get that title? He said, I don't know how I got that title. He says, but I used to take the airplane up and stall it out and drop it down and then come in for a landing as I weave through telephone poles to the ground. So I think...
You elaborate beautifully.
Okay. So that's the reason. A couple other things. You did work in over 4,000 radio shows up in Canada.
Yes, I did.
And you also made many TV appearances. Now, a lot of you might not recognize these names. I do. A little more senior. The Fugitive, The Virginian, Peyton Place, Marcus Welby, MD, Gunsmoke, and my favorite, Hazel. And then he finally got the major role as Scotty in Star Trek, and the rest is history. Just a couple personal things I want to say. I feel NASA owes Scotty and that group a tremendous gratitude. It brought the challenge of space in our living rooms every week. And it was the right show at the right time, where space was just getting started, and Star Trek just continued the support and brought to people's attentions the excitement of space. We also, we saw him in a movie, or at least I did, where he was making plexiglass tanks for a couple of humpback whales to keep us in the future, to save the civilization. He was in one scene that I remember where Captain Kirk fired him on the radio. He said that he couldn't break this beam that was run by a computer named Val that was holding the spacecraft in space. And finally, old reliable Scotty got his laser beams out and shot that computer dead. It was that type of imagination and that is a pioneer of space. And the last thing I have to say is I did read the interview in the Smithsonian where it was last week. I hope most of you read it, where they're taking the characters of Star Trek and putting them in the Smithsonian. It's the first time that I know that fictional characters would be displayed in the museum. And I hardly endorse it, because he is as part of space as anybody in this room or the pioneers before us. So, I mean, Star Trek is my favorite and always will be, and the characters in it. So without further ado, I would like to introduce and welcome to Goddard the Chief Engineer of Space, Mr. James Scotty Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, you have absolutely no idea how coming to a place like the Goddard Space Center, what it means to me, because I'm behind you 100% all the way, no matter what you do. It's it's something that I think I have in my bones ever since I read Buck Rogers in the Detroit Times, which used to be our Sunday paper in Sarnia, Ontario. And it was just fabulous to me to think about it. And whether it was Buck Rogers or whatever, I don't know. But I became highly proficient in mathematics, chemistry, physics, and just about never failed to get 100% in those subjects. I let most of the other subjects, literature, etc., fall by the wayside. But to me, somehow I seem to be able to do things for certain branches of the armed forces and certain people, and I get to rewarded by coming to a place like this. And it certainly is a reward for me. I have been to Lewis in Cleveland a couple of times. I've been to the China Lake. I've been to many other, I've been to Hughes. All sorts of experimental labs that I have been to, and it thrills me. I have also had an 8-hour cruise on a nuclear submarine. I've been aboard 3 aircraft carriers, landing out on them in the ocean. They fly me out, and it's just fabulous, you know, to me. I can't think of anything that satisfies me more than that. However, there are, to me, just a few little serious things that I want to talk about, such as when we harness the matter-antimatter, which of course, when we get to fusion with it, that'll make the hydrogen fusion look like a candle. And but you know what? We will get there. I know we will. And we have to get there, because we only have 1 billion years left in this earth, and we got to get out of here somehow. And let me tell you, is that I would not like to see, I have no idea what is in the plans, but I would never like to see us have years and years of satellite training without manned spacecraft. To me, I think manned spacecraft we have to do, because it would be like shall we say, the city of Los Angeles that allowed all their interurban trains to go, which is General Motors' fault in the first place. And because, no, they bought up and then they let them run down so that they could build buses, and you know, hey, we're managed by some of these big corporations, and that's not good. So consequently, Los Angeles, very late in life, has to build subway trains and fast urban trains now. They had them before. You take the city of Toronto. They never let go of anything. They just keep on improving everything they have. They sell their 55-mile-an-hour streetcars to cities like Pittsburgh and San Francisco, and they buy 70-mile-an-hour ones. And when I tell you that who wants a 70-mile-an-hour streetcar? You wait till you're stuck on a Toronto street at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's when they do 70 miles an hour. And it's absolutely amazing. They have subways. They have electrical buses, they have buses. They have GO trains, they have just about everything you can possibly imagine that Los Angeles let go. And if we ever let go of manned spacecraft, we're going to be in the same problem maybe 50 years from now or 100 years from now. To me, I think it's vitally important, and that's the only serious thing I really have to say. Okay, now, the next problem. The next problem is I usually find that parents push their children to ask the questions when it comes to a question and answer period. And the reason is that I think the parents are shy and they don't really know how to ask questions. So what I will do will be to train you how to ask questions, and then, let's sort of bring you into it gently so that you won't feel uncomfortable. You understand? I hope you do. So what I will do is I will pose a question, then I'll answer it. You'll find out how easy it is. Okay? So, we take the case of the person who has the diagrams of the enterprise, and they check them out, and they get the magnifying glass also, and they say, no toilets. You must understand, of course, that we do have phasers. Need I say more? All right. The next question. I think you can all hear me, can you not? Sure. Raise your hand in the back if you can't hear me. And I'll go back to this. I hate these things. But anyway, this is a darn good one, by the way. I know it is. You can hear me now? Yeah, somebody's going like this. Okay. All right. A lot of people also ask the question is, what would I do if I were captain? The very first thing I would do would be to limit Ensign Kirk. To one girl every 5 years. I mean, that used to get boring, except, of course, when I would get a girl. And then it all depends on what you mean by get, Chekhov would never be allowed to scream again. He got too good at it. As a matter of fact, when we read Star Trek VI for the first time, we all let out a cheer at the end because there never was a line in there saying, Chekhov screams. Right? Oh, good. Sulu would never be allowed to carry arms. You see the finished product, right? And it all looks as if it was so easy. 30 takes. Oh, George is just one of these people that if you went hunting with him, you're walking along beside him, you'd find his shotgun right here all the time. Now, he knows I tell this story on him, and he gets a good laugh. And if you've never heard George laugh, it's something else. It's just, Marvelous. The next thing, we would hire a couple of writers. To give Uhura some other lines other than hailing frequencies open source. Because she's so pretty, she's so good, she sings beautifully, and besides that, she loves me. So, then the Bones would never be allowed to say, he's dead, Jim. Because basically, he doesn't really know what he's talking about, I mean, all he has to do is bring out his little salt and pepper shaker, and all of a sudden you're alive, and you look up and say, well, what's going on here? That's about it. And finally, Mr. Spock would never, ever, ever, ever be allowed in my engine room. Way back in the old days, when this engineer who built the ship, who knows how everything works, and, you know, did everything, knows what every computer will do and everything else, we would run into trouble. They'd send Mr. Spock down to the engine room. And there would be Scotty off in the corner saying, "Oh, gee, Mr. Spock, you're so marvelous. All I had to do is just watch you, and one of these days they'll call me a miracle worker." The next question that a lot of people ask is, how did I get the role of Scotty? Well, to cut a long story short, my agent sent me to read for the part of a Scotland Yard inspector on Burke's Law. Everybody, a lot of people seen Burke's Law? Right. With Gene Barry in the lead. And so I did about 3 British accents for them. And at the end they said, "Well, you just look like Gene's younger brother." I said, "I'm much better looking than he is." And anyway, I didn't get that job. But about 10 days later, the director of that called me and said, and his name was Jim Goldstone. He said, "Jimmy," he said, "I'd like you to come and do some of your accents for these Star Trek people." I said, "Who are they?" So he told me. I went down, I said, "Fine." So I went down there on a Saturday morning, which is unusual because they wanted to start shooting on Tuesday. And so I went down there and they handed me a page of the script with some words on it, nothing to do with engineering or anything else. And I proceeded to do 7 or 8 different accents for them. And at the end, Gene Roddenberry said to me, "Well," he said, "which accent do you like?" I said, "Well," I said, "if he's going to be an engineer, I think he better be a Scotsman. Because in my history at that time, Scotsmen were great engineers, you know." And so he said, "Well, we rather like that one too." I said, "Fine." Well, I jumped right in. I said, "I'll call him Montgomery Scott after my maternal grandfather," and so on and so on. And I went on with a few other things. And Gene said, "No, what, whoa, hold everything." Gene's one of these guys, of course, that doesn't like the wind taken out of his sails, you know. And not only that, I haven't signed a contract or anything else. However, supposing, though, that instead of a Scotsman, they had picked some other dialect. And when Captain Kirk calls down to engineering and says, "Give me warp 12," instead of hearing the familiar, "What, 12, Captain? My engines just can't take that." Instead of that, you hear, "C." Or you hear, "Oy vey, what is this warp 12? I can give you 3 4s. I can give you 4 3s. I can get 11 for you wholesale. You don't want that, oh, you cheap old..." Or we have, whatever you say, sweetie. Or we have, "Now listen here, Captain, I've told you many times before, I don't like to go above that warp 8. "Oh, that's an order. Well, all right." Or we have, "Ha ha! You be young Kirk, eh? Well, sir, I'll see you hanging from the highest yardarm in Starfleet before I'll give you a warp 12. Or we have, "Captain, you are playing with me, huh?" And also I noticed that on the last planet you did not get the girl. You should have come to Lucky Pierre. My favorite, though, would have been rather lots of fun. And I have a name for him. We call him Reggie. And he would answer the captain something like this: "I'm terribly sorry, sir, but I can't seem to get the little buggers to move any faster." You see, I thought you all did quite well, you know, so if you have a little nerve now, you can ask a question. All right? Yes, sir.
Is there any possibility of you going to
Is there any possibility of me appearing on the next generation? No, I do not want to look that old. You saw what they did to DeForest Kelly. There wasn't one square centimeter of his face that didn't have a wrinkle in it. You know? Oh, that's terrible. You have to sit in the chair for about 4 hours, you know. And I don't want to earn money just by sitting in a chair. Actually, you know, there'll probably be some way they'll get me in eventually. I don't know. I know some people are writing scripts about that, but they just like the way I act, that's all. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
What's your favorite episode?
What do I think of what?
What was your favorite?
My favorite episode, actually, it's a very fine line, you know, but I like the one, everybody here should like this answer. I like the one that is, in more scientific terms, which was the one called the Doomsday Machine. And because that's the way I like it to be. Because to me, science fiction, that you should underline the word science 50 times and then say the words fiction at the end. But, you know, Gene Roddenberry used to say to me, no, Jimmy, this is science fiction. He says, fantasy must be in there too, you know. I said, I don't like it. Well, he says, you still want the job? Yes. See, I told you. Yes, sir.
Is there going to be another Star Trek, or are you really...
To tell you the honest truth, well, I really don't know. Usually we have to give Paramount about 1.5 years to think about it. You know, they put 75 or 80 or $100 million into the bank, and then they start thinking, well, what are we going to do? You know, they just, they sit there and they sit there and they sit there. You know, it's unbelievable how long they sit. I mean, we should have, we just finished number 6 and it's out. We should have been doing at least number 10. Well, instead of 6, right? But that's the, you know. Okay. Yes? Any more questions? Yes, sir.
What kinds of scientific and technical advice went into the making of an episode?
What kind of scientific effects?
No, what kind of scientific and technical advice and review of the effects you were trying to achieve would go into a given episode?
Oh, what kind of technical advice would go into making a show like that? Actually, to start it all off, Gene Roddenberry went to the Rand Corporation in Santa Monica, which is the big think tank out there. And he asked them what was possible and probable. And they told him. And that's where matter, antimatter came in, and you know, and, all sorts of other things. Lasers, by that time you would have maybe a different name for them, and you call them phasers. And but the only thing that they didn't have, and probably the only thing that will never happen, was to be the fact that of the transporter, because of breaking the human body down into you know, powder and sending it some place. You know, it's in a way a little ridiculous. But I mean, Roddenberry wanted a fast way to get from the ship to the planet and the planet back to the ship again. So that was that, you know, and it was terribly simple to do. But you know, it's absolutely amazing the number of people who say, well, how does the transporter work? So, anyway, yes? Any more questions? Yes? 1, 2, and 3.
About how long did it take to film an episode?
About how long did it take to film one episode for television? If we did it in 6 days, we were in budget. We did that once. The next question.
My fiance loves the Star Trek books on cassette. Have you done any? And if you have, do you plan on doing any?
Excuse me, done?
I'm sorry, my fiance loves to hear the Star Trek characters do the Star Trek books on cassette. And I was wondering...
Star Trek book on the set?
On cassette and CD, on tape.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I was wondering if you have read for any of those, and if you have, do you plan on doing any more?
I do an awful lot of reading of novels for Simon and Schuster, all science fiction novels, and they're under the Star Trek aegis. But I mean, I did the last one. I did Star Trek 6, and then the last one I did just about 5 or 6 weeks ago was Probe. You know, if you ever read that book called Probe, Probe was the satellite or spaceship in Star Trek 4 that came and, you know, nearly wrecked our planet. You know, but we got rid of them somehow. Okay? All right, and the next one.
Do you have plans to do something else, or are you going to stay with Star Trek from now on?
Do I have plans to do something else, or am I going to stay with Star Trek from now on? To tell you the truth, no, dear, I am, if Star Trek is still going to do more, I will do those, but I'm really making a concentrated effort to do characters far away from doing one with an accent, or certainly one with a Scottish accent, because I have been typecast, and it is absolutely deadly. There's no way that it isn't deadly. And that happened to me seriously by 1971. I was telling people at lunch today that I was called up on January of 1971 by a director that I had worked for where I did an English accent. And he called me and said, "Jimmy, can you do a French-Canadian accent?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay." He says, "Let your beard grow and be over here in 5 days." And it was a movie with Richard Harris called Man in the Wilderness, and a very good movie it was too. And but when I came back from that, I was over there for 5.5 months. I had an apartment in Madrid, and we also went, we shot most of it just outside Madrid, and then we went to Segovia, and we went to Soria up in the north, and we had 10 days off because there was so much snow, and we couldn't handle all that snow, they said. So I took off and went to London. But anyway, when I got back, I would walk into producers' offices hoping to get a chance to read for a part, and the secretary would say, which they never did before, said, "Oh, hi, Scotty," you know, and the producer would say, "Well, Mr. Scott," you know, that sort of thing, you know, and I'd say, "Well, are you going to give him a chance to read here?" "Well, no, you're awfully nice, but thanks very much, no," and all, you know. Hey, listen, for the next 5 years, I didn't work in the business at all, and that is deadly. I don't know when any one of you don't work in the business, your business at all, that also is deadly, and I would never like to see it, because it's terrible. Fortunately, around that time, the Program Corporation of America hired me, sent me a letter and said, you know, we are getting a lot of requests for you from universities and colleges and so on, and would you like to sign up with us, and we take 30%. So I said, well, thanks very much, because that was 70% I wasn't getting. So I did a lot of that. I also did a couple of plays, and one of which ran for 11 months, and another one ran for 3 months. And so, you know, I certainly existed anyway. But the Program Corporation, it was in 1977, I did 42 universities. That's not bad. The IRS said that was a good year. Okay? Yes, sir.
How does the transporter work?
The transporter, it worked like this.
I have a serious question, and it has to do with politics. To build all these wonderful things, we need money, and the money is managed by the politicians. How can we get them to understand the things that I think people around here understand about the importance of this, of space?
Well, I tell you, I have been told, because of the I did narrated a shuttle movie that was made, which was not really seen in this country, but I did it for NASA, and I charged them, instead of $5,000, I charged them $500, which was the basic minimum, which I had to charge, right? And my agent didn't even get 10%. So anyway, but I have, by showing it to all these universities, I've been told that I am probably the most prolific private pusher of NASA in the whole world. And I push it every chance I get. But the thing about the transporter is that this country certainly needs to be told, because to me, I would love to see NASA's budget doubled. Because at least it needs to be doubled, for sure. Because we cannot put ourselves in the position of falling back and not keep everything going. It's the same as the city of Los Angeles, you know? You just can't do that. You can't afford to do it. Because to get back there again, that's tough. Really tough. And an awful lot more expensive. Okay? All right. Yes, dear?
Do you think it's possible for one of our probes to malfunction the way Voyager did in Star Trek?
I don't know how you can hear that. I can't. Do I think it's possible for what?
One of the probes to malfunction the way Voyager did in Star Trek?
One of the probes to malfunction. One of, you mean the real probe? I think we always have to keep learning. I think there's a possibility that we will have future malfunctions of one sort or another. But the point is that we don't want them. And, and that's why we do our best not to have them. Okay? Over here and then here. Wait.
I read somewhere, I think it might have been a TV guide, that they might be planning another Star Trek spin-off of some sort. You know anything about that?
As a matter of fact, Paramount shortly, about 4 or 5 weeks ago, announced that they were going to do another Star Trek show, which would be based on a planet. I mean, based on a space base, a space platform of some sort, right? And hopefully that will keep on and promoting space, because certainly the effect that we had, I think, is a true effect. And I know very well, as I said when I was in Washington at the Space Museum there, I said there is not a week that goes by that someone doesn't say thank you, because you are the reason that I became an engineer. And it's absolutely, and the same happened with McCoy, with medicine, and with Nurse Chapel. Okay? Yes, dear.
If some alien race out there is watching on its version of setting, and it gets one of the Star Trek episodes, which one would you like them to see?
Which alien race would I like to see that's out there? Well, to tell you the honest truth, dear, so far, I really do not believe in UFOs. Huh? Excuse me, I got it wrong somehow.
If there's some alien race out there watching on its version of statues, search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and their radio transmitters caught a version of an episode of Star Trek, which one would you like?
Which episode of Star Trek would, if there was an alien race out there that, what would I want them to see if they caught one of the episodes of Star Trek, right? Very difficult question. Probably 15 or 20 of them, actually, that would serve the purpose. I don't think we should want them to see the trouble with tribbles. I don't think we should have them, maybe City on the Edge of Forever, or possibly the Doomsday Machine, which is my favorite, you know. What I also think number 6 movie would be a very good one, because there's a tremendous effort for peace throughout the universe in Star Trek 6, right? So I think that's a real good one. Okay? Yes, sir.
How does one get to be a writer for Star Trek?
How does one get to be a writer for Star Trek? To tell you the honest truth, I think you just have to sit down and write and put your ideas on paper. A lot of people ask me if I'm a writer. I said no. I said when I first did the, after the war, when I first went to Toronto to that school where I eventually won a scholarship to the neighborhood playhouse, and that was in January of 1946. I said, well, I better start learning to write. So I sat down and I wrote the word "the," and that just didn't even look right. And I've been a failure ever since. Today, I really dislike writing in all shapes and forms except autographing. And I'm good at that, you know. As a matter of fact, you know, when I have to have something to do all the time. You know, I mean, I got a million things to do. I used to do a lot of wood carving, but I lost my, when I moved into the present house, I lost my, all my woodworking tools and everything else, and so I'm going to have to do that again in the new house up in Washington State. So we're going to be building up there, and but I was a pretty good carver, and you know, I like working with wood. As a matter of fact, Gene Roddenberry's library in the second last house that he had was all my work. And I just said, hey, you pay for the materials, I'll do it. I just have to be busy, you know. And sometimes, when I have nothing else to do, my wife will say, oh, why don't you just go and autograph your pictures? So, that's what I do. Yes, dear.
Jim, you said you want to get away from a stereotype role such as in Star Trek. What type of role would you like to play?
Well, let me tell you, I read a role about 3 months ago. Well, the question was, what sort of role would I like to play if I want to get away from doing Star Trek roles? I read a role about 3 months ago, and about 3.5 weeks ago, I did the role, and it was of a deranged, retired chief of police. And all I could think of was, oh boy, I'm going to eat that one up. And I did. And I did it for a low-budget film. They had to pay my fee, but I did it for low-budget people, and I knocked their pants off. And I know, because I know that I am one heck of an actor. You know? And that is not that is nothing to do with false modesty, because you know, or even you know, overdone modesty or whatever. I know the work that I have done long before I ever did Star Trek, and I ache, really ache, to do that work again. And I have another part from the same people. They just sent me about a week ago or 10 days ago. They sent me another script, and I like that part too. And it's, I can do any accent in the world, you know, so it's not a question of accent. It's just such a gorgeously powerful thing to do a character that when you say a certain sound, just a sound, that's all you need. At certain moments in a certain play, when what has been built up, you can say, oh, and before you know it, the audience is either laughing or crying. And you did it. Marvelous feeling. And I'm telling you, I've seen the handkerchiefs come out. A lot of males, too. Yes, dear.
How did you develop your different accents?
How did I develop my different accents? God gave them to me, dear. He gave me the ear, which can hear the music, and I just happen to be able to hear not only what people say, but what sounds they don't make, which are very important. It's like a lot of dialects, they leave off like a Cockney. You say, that's all right, and you think you've heard the all right. You think you've heard the T on the end, but you haven't. I hear that he doesn't say it. And that is also fun. But I've been able to do it ever since I can remember, 5 or 6 years of age. My mother told me that when I started reading, I would read out loud and walk from the living room to the hallway to the kitchen to the dining room to the living room to the hallway, you know. And she said every time you go through a door, you'd change your accent. You know. So, you know, that was just, and God forbid that I would ever have become an actor, you know. But I must have been out of my mind to become an actor. Yes, sir.
Can you do a Klingon accent for us? Can you do a Klingon accent for us?
To tell you the honest truth, I invented the Klingon language. I did. That was in Star Trek 1. Okay? Is that an accent enough? As a matter of fact, the Simon & Schuster, they haven't sent me the tape yet. Simon & Schuster, at the end, when I finished reading Star Trek 6 for them, they said to me, would you create a different language than the Klingons? And I said, sure. You understand? Yes, dear.
How do they make the shimmering and fading effect of the transporter?
How do they do what? How is the shimmering and the fading effect on the transporters done? You shoot it first, right? They run the camera for about 30 seconds. You stand there, right? Then you get away from there and they run the camera with nothing there. Then they edit that with you there. They want to put you in or they want to gradually take you out. You're like 1 in 10 when you start to appear, and then you're 8 in 10, 6 in 10, and so on, until you gradually appear. You got it? Okay, and the same thing is done in reverse when you want to disappear. And then this is the old-fashioned method. Then they would send you the film to the optical company, and the optical company would put the shimmering in there and the sparkle. Now it's all done by computers. Piece of cake. Right. Yes, sir. Tom.
Oh, what a memory. if you could have worked for NASA, would you have been an engineer? And if so, what type of engineer?
I more than likely, if I had worked for NASA, I would probably more than likely have been a chemist of some sort. You know?
That's about it. My father was a great chemist. You know, he was a terrific man. As a matter of fact, the first man to invent high-octane gasoline. Tiny little refinery in British Columbia, 1923. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. And then you.
What do you think about the space station?
I have seen the space station down at Houston, and what do I think about it? I think it's absolutely necessary that we have it, and we have to have people who can stay up there and do these experiments, you know, for 2 or 3 months or 6 months or whatever. I don't know. You know, it depends. We have to find out how long the human being can last. But then again, we also will find human beings who will automatically adjust to all these things. And not everybody would probably be good in space. I'm going to give you a Scottish toast, and then I'm going to translate it, and you're going to have a tough job. I'll say it twice, and then I'll translate it. Here stays and was like a sky few, and there are deed. Here stays and was like a sky few, and there are deed. Nobody could possibly be as good as we are. To be that good, they'd have to be dead. Thank you.